It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
Okay, another exciting episode of Finance Your Movie. I'm here this week with Nick Pinelli, writer-director of the movie If I Could Ride Again. Welcome, Nick.
Hey, so excited to be here. Thanks, Scott.
And once again, big thank you to Andrea at AMCK PR. So Nick, let's jump right in. I saw the trailer for If I Could Ride Again. Looks like a really, really cool film. A lot of moving pieces. We'll get into that in just a minute. But you started in the theater, and then I guess during the pandemic, you really wanted to jump in to become a filmmaker.
Yes, excellent. So I was in theater for about probably 7 years, doing different things from touring with a different company to directing a regional company in Houston. And I had done a music video with a friend of mine. I loved producing that music video and being in it. And I decided to take a big shift, go to LA and be a writer and director, try that whole thing out. But I moved in February of 2020. So just about 2 weeks before the pandemic hit. And I was there for a short period of time. It didn't end up working out, so obviously. So I came back to Texas and I had said, well, if I was going to do that whole writer-director thing in LA and LA wasn't going to work out, like I still owed it to myself to try. And ever since then, I have really been putting all of my efforts towards making films and really just creating any sort of video project that businesses would want or people would want. And so I co-founded a production company, and one thing has led to another. Short films. I didn't know anything about my first film when I made it. And then, it all snowballed to here I am now.
So Front Pocket Productions, correct?
Yes, Front Pocket Productions is the company that I am the co-founder of.
So is this kind of a symbiotic relationship? I'm just curious. So you have this Front Pocket Productions for profit, making a little bit of money on these corporate videos, music videos, that type of commercials, music videos, while you're getting to do your creative short films?
Yeah, so the idea originally behind creating Front Pocket Productions was really to always have a production company that allowed for us to be able to create what we wanted to create. And a service that we know people would pay for is commercials for their businesses. That's just something that we knew that we always wanted, or that knew that people would always want. But what we personally didn't want to do was be beholden to people that weren't exactly excited about our projects, whatever it was that we were creating. And so we wanted to do so successfully with these commercials that we could start to use some of that money to fund our own projects. And that's where Front Pocket Productions was born from.
It's a brilliant business plan. One of my friends, oh God, probably 25, 30 years ago, started Stars North Productions, a guy named Todd Thompson. And he's become quite the prolific director because he always had this machine feeding money so he could be doing the short. So it's a very common route. So you did a whole bunch of shorts just on the narrative short front in a short amount of time, which is a very popular route to do your first feature. So this is your first feature, correct?
Correct. This is my first feature film.
Okay. So viewers at home want to know what was the budget, first of all, and how do you come up with the money? Because this is not a short film and it doesn't look cheap.
Yeah, no, that is 100% true and a brilliant question worth asking. Small, big, whatever. The main thing that you need is people that are passionate about the project. And that includes when you get to bigger projects, you need investors that are passionate about the project as well. And so the way that all of this came about for me was I had been creating many short films, as you had said. And there was one particular short film that I had worked on with a lot of really great filmmakers here in Houston, Texas, called Right On. And it was a co-production of a few different production companies with some really great people. And there was an actor that was on that project that I had directed. He had a great time. And lo and behold, later on, he's on this film, which was If I Could Ride. And they are putting something together. And this film that they had last second, they lost their director. And so he asked me, he remembered the work that I had done on the short film, basically the quality of the work that I had done and everything like that. And he said, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? What filmmaker is going to say that they're not interested in making a feature film?
So I just want to clarify real quick. If I Could Ride Again was kind of already in the works. They lost their director. You weren't attached yet, and then he reached out to you.
Correct. That's exactly what happened. So this particular film, I was not a part of the original group of people who put it together. But the only way for any film to really happen is to ensure that it gets done. And every single member that became a part of the top head of this film, meaning like the producers, director, managers, things like that, all at some point or another agreed to making this film happen. So when we're talking about how did this film happen and sort of what was the budget and everything like that, it started out relatively small, but still bigger than anything I had ever worked on. The original idea was to go somewhere under around $150,000 for the film. And we were talking about how do we create a film like that. And as we talked about what the project would need and where I started to show sort of my credibility as a filmmaker of why I was asking for certain things or crew or dates or whatever, these producers who are all lovely people, they started to understand more of what it takes to make a movie. And they were fascinated by it. And I got super fortunate that this group of producers basically was able to say, look, we're going to do what we need to do in order to make this movie. And so the budget slowly crept up above that 150 mark. And we ended up somewhere below 300K. So we ballooned quite a bit. But if you really look at what is in this film, it's kind of crazy to even
it looks
imagine.
It looks big.
Yeah.
All the horses, the ranches, the stunts.
Horses, the ranches, there's race cars, there's a whole race track. And honestly, none of that would be even close to possible anywhere near our budget without one person who's our executive producer, John Miller. He is I like to call it the spirit of the film. The one person that drives this thing that really makes it happen. Everybody is working on the film and really putting in blood, sweat, and tears, but there's almost always one person that is really like, this is their thing. And for us, it was our executive producer, John Miller, because he was basically like a staple in that community in Vermont, which is where this film was being made. And because of that, we were able to get just wonderful deals on locations, and we got fantastic support from the horses and the ranch that we just like were able to do so many just insane, unheard of things. I was telling a lot of different people when I was first getting onto this project about what was it like to make your first feature film. For me, it was like making 6 short films all crammed together, all at once, and with still no budget. And even though we did have like some budget or whatever, it's like doing all of that, but then you're also adding race cars and you're adding horses, live animals. And we, on that set, in the story, there was a blind actor as well. And the actor himself was blind. So dealing with that as well, who's a wonderful kid by the name of Ashton, who's just phenomenal. He's great in the movie. And you know, boy, he tugs on your heartstrings for sure. So it's a lot of extra things being thrown at you. in conjunction with, this is the first feature that I've ever made, which is just crazy.
How many shooting days?
It ended up being 14 and a half.
Pretty tight.
Pretty tight.
And were these group of producers that pulled you in, did they have a lot of feature experience, or was this a fairly new process for them as well?
Yeah, a wonderful question. So there are three major producers that were on that project. Don Miller, the executive producer, he had created a few different short films, and I think two feature films beforehand, with some other filmmakers. And so he had a little bit of experience in it. And then there was another co-executive producer named Jeff Cavey. He had never produced a film or executive produced a film before this one. And then there was the producer of the film himself, Jeff Brody, who has more experience. He was also a SAG actor. So he's had a lot more experience on bigger sets and kind of helped guide a lot of what was needed to make the production happen. And in the beginning, I would talk a lot with Jeff Brody about kind of speaking the creative language to Don and Jeff Cavey, who didn't quite know as much, to make sure that it was really well understood what was being needed. And that, you know, filmmaking has so many different things that people say about it, as just how money is being spent and how people look at money. And once money is involved, a lot of people start to think very differently. So I never wanted anyone to think that I was just spending money for the sake of spending money or just doing anything. It was always like I personally made it my mission to say I wouldn't spend $1 more than what was needed for the good of the project. And most of what basically every project that I do, I always have the moniker of best movie possible. And I think that those are all very important words. Best is about the highest quality movie. It's what we're making, and possible is within our limits, including budget and time.
Putting every dollar on the screen.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, big shout out to Don Miller. Anyone who steps up, and I've done a lot of projects myself. I'm always grateful for our executive producers, because without the executive producing the money, the movie would not exist. So big shout out to Don Miller.
For sure.
Circling back,
both him and Jeff Cavey were instrumental in putting a lot of funds needed in order to make this movie, for sure.
Circling back to all of those shorts you did, because that's a very common path to get to the feature. How valuable is that for aspiring filmmakers who might be watching this podcast right now, before they try to go out and do their first feature?
I don't know if anyone is watching, seeing the face that I just made as you asked that question, but it's undeniable how much something like that is needed for multiple reasons. But I would say that the biggest reason is that any artist has to continue to create whatever they're creating. If you're a director, direct things. If you're a writer, write things. If you're an actor, find things to act in. And if you have nothing to act in, write something so that you can act in it. And the only reason that I have the feature film now under my belt with this amazing budget that I was able to work with these fantastic people, with all these experiences and opportunities, is because I did a short film well. Somebody thought I did this short film well. And I wouldn't have done that short film well had I not done 7 to 10 other short films terribly. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many
practice makes perfect.
100%. But and even then I had a lot of ideas as to what would work, but I would learn things that didn't very quickly and go, okay, now I know I have to operate thinking this way. Or, I don't know how many times I had to learn the lesson that just because you're outside doesn't mean that you don't need lighting. Like that, just like, I don't know why, as a filmmaker, that just never hit me properly until I was working with some really solid DPs who were like, that filming outside doesn't mean it's easy. And it was like, oh, right.
Especially in the middle of the day.
Oh my God.
Right overhead.
Right? Like, I was just like, oh, we'll be outside. It'll be easy. And then there's no reverb and the sound is great. And they're like, this is not how that works. You know what I mean? So I had to learn a lot of those lessons, and making a lot of those short films is 100% the right thing to do, mostly because you practice, you get better. for sure. But also, you just can't stop creating, because if you're always waiting for an opportunity, it'll just never come. I love the phrase "luck is where preparation meets opportunity," because a lot of opportunities like this could come, but if I wasn't prepared for it, I never would have gotten this film.
100%. And I think that's kind of the big takeaway here is you literally are the role model for luck because you were prepared and you put yourself in the proximity and you had that opportunity at the right time. So
Right. That's
congratulations.
thank you so much. And that's exactly what it was. I feel incredibly lucky. And at the same time, I also feel like nobody, it's like that old phrase of, it takes 50 years to become an overnight success. I haven't put in my 50 years, and I'm far from being an overnight success, but it is that sort of thing of like, there's so much that you're doing that people don't see or think or feel. And, maybe it won't be appreciated. Maybe it will, whatever. Just remember the purpose that you're doing it for is something greater that will come as long as you're prepared for it.
I came from the Florida market and I have probably close to a dozen friends who hit it pretty big. Like they're making $1 million a picture, or they're steadily getting hired to direct features. They're success, or they're acting, making a six-figure income comfortably.
Yeah.
Um, and I always say the 10-year overnight success story. And I have a quote right over my desk here. One of my favorite quotes: "There is no such thing as failure in Hollywood, just people who quit too soon." David Carradine.
Yeah, I remember I had a realization like that a long time ago, that there is no such thing as failure. It's just giving up at some point.
Yep.
It's a really hard lesson to learn and a hard lesson to accept, but it's 1,000% true. And it's something that you really just have to keep in mind, especially with something as difficult as filmmaking.
Well, Nick Pinelli, you did it. Where can people see If I Could Ride Again? Where do they go?
If I Could Ride Again is going to be on a few major platforms, but the biggest ones are Amazon Prime and Apple TV.
Oh, congratulations on getting an Apple.
Thank you. We're very excited.
That's awesome. Um, do you have an upcoming project? Anything in the works or anything you'd like to do?
Yeah, we definitely have an upcoming project that is happening here in Houston. So I'm a Houston filmmaker, but a lot of If I Could Ride was shot in Vermont. Um, so I have a project that I'm working on here in Houston, but also I know that the guys from Miller Films and Bash and Brook Entertainment, which were the main production companies for If I Could Ride Again, they got something great in the works for another movie in the If I Could Ride universe, if you would. So there's a lot going on there, a lot going on here. I'm just so thrilled to be a part of anything that I can be a part of.
Cool. Well, when it all comes together and that next film is in the can or ready to release, circle back. I'd love to talk about that film as well.
Sure.
If people want to follow you, Nick, either Front Pocket Productions, or do you have a social media? What's the best way to people to follow you?
Yeah, of course. Always thankful for a shout out for social media, so I appreciate that. If you want to follow the movie If I Could Ride Again, Instagram at If I Could Ride Again would be the best place to do that. If you want to follow my production company at Front Pocket Productions, also on Instagram. And then if you just want to follow me and the crazy different things I do as a writer, director, and inspirational maker of movies, you can follow me at my own Instagram at Nick Pinelli 1.
Nick Pinelli 1.
Number 1, baby.
Cool, cool. Well, Nick Pinelli, we look forward to seeing the film. The trailer looked amazing. I can't believe you pulled it off for under $1 million, let alone 300 or so.
Yeah.
It looks like just massive, and look forward to seeing it.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really, really appreciate that. And we are so thankful that people are finally getting eyes on this thing.
All the best.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
It's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com, click on the green telephone, you'll see our calendar and find an open spot. We'll do a one-on-one call, which will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie.